The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated.
Welcome back to the Nova Society. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with my panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Mark Found. Today we will be answering listener emails, and we have a question from Ben, who lives in Charleston, South Carolina. And Ben asks, Trump has called the situation in Gaza real starvation and pledged U.S. aid centers. Is this a genuine humanitarian pivot or political optics? How should the U.S. navigate its role between supporting Israel and addressing Palestinian humanitarian needs? Scott?
That's a great question,
Ben. Thank you.
You're just saying that because he's from South Carolina.
No, but he's on the other side of South Carolina.
All right. How's the weather down there in Charleston? I'll bet it's nice and steamy.
I'm sure that it is.
Yeah. They got palmetto bugs the size of black helicopters flying around there. Anyhow, Trump is not a credible source of information when it comes to Gaza because, of course, what he's looking forward to is the Gazan Riviera. And starving the people out so that they would want to leave is a tactic in the larger battle that he has to do to Gaza what he did to Atlantic City, which really worked out so well for the people there. And and so I'm sure look over the serious situation in Gaza is tragic. It's heartbreaking. It would be nice if the people in charge of Gaza would feel the same way, but they don't. They really they feel that they've said this many times that a dead Israeli baby is good for Hamas, but a dead Palestinian baby is also good for Hamas, and dead Palestinian babies are what they're willing to deal with in order to get their way, which is a one-state solution from the river to the sea with no Jews left in the world. And, that's gonna be a mitigating factor in everything that we do there. As much as I hate Netanyahu and want him gone, as much as I hate Trump and want him gone, these are the people that are in charge right now, and they're going to, the strong do what they will, and the weak must bear what they must. And that's the tragic situation that's going on right now in Gaza. You hope to give them food, you hope to give them water, you hope to give them medical supplies that they need, you hope to do all these things, but the war goes on, and the war is the problem, not the food and all that. The tragedy is that Hamas is not giving up, and that Netanyahu is going to fight them until they're gone. And it's a mystery. I have to say, it's a mystery to me why they haven't been more innovative in their tactics. I understand that attrition, is a sadly time-honored way to fight a war. Sieges have existed since there have been cities, and that Gaza is a place under siege. But I wouldn't look to the United States or Donald Trump for any kind of relief from that. That is not happening.
Isn't it the administration's basic policy of simply ethnic cleansing? And I also saw, I think it was in Politico, that a U.S. research group, I did not read the article. I have so much reading to do, but I did see the headline, found no credible evidence that Hamas is taking any food aid. They're not stealing anything.
Wow.
So I don't know. Have you seen that? I
did see that. Yeah. I did see that article.
Yeah. So go ahead. What and what about this ethnic cleansing and turn Gaza into a?
So as far as the idea of Hamas not stealing the food, they were a little light on fact. There was a little bit of there was some leaps of faith in the article, and I understand journalists do that because, hey, I didn't see it, therefore it didn't happen. I'm the first one to say I believe, a quarter of what I hear and only half of what I see. But the fact is that I did read the article. It was light on real deep investigative journalism. It was more on the lines of, well, I didn't see it, therefore I can't say that that's what's happening. But the headline made you think. I totally understand what you're saying, Brooke. The headline made you think that, oh yeah, Hamas is innocent of this. But it really, when you get dug into it, it really wasn't saying. It really wasn't saying that. To the question about real starvation, yeah, okay. So Captain Bone Spurs has figured out that they're actually starving in the Gaza Strip. But if you think he's going to follow through on this promise, look at all the other promises he made, such as I'll end the Ukraine uh, Russian war on day one. Well, that didn't come to fruition. Just look at all the promises he has made that basically he's just telling you what you want to hear at the moment. And I think he was pressed with a question when he made this statement, he was pressed with a question by a journalist. And I think, like everything else that Trump says, the first thing that popped into his head, and this was the best he had. Now, probably 30 seconds after he said it, he totally forgot it. He completely forgot that he had said it. So, if I'm living in Gaza and I'm starving and I need water and stuff like that, and I hear this, I'm not getting my hopes up. You have probably more chance of the Easter Bunny showing up at your house than you do this guy following through on something like this. Do I wish he would? Absolutely. I wish he would. But the fact is I wouldn't hold up too much hope.
I have another question. I was
Sure.
listening to, thank you. I was listening to, and I appreciate your sharing the article because I didn't read it, and I should have. Netanyahu, whom I can't abide either. So Scott, I'm 100% with you there. I have despised Netanyahu for, I don't know, the first time around, it was, I don't know, decades ago. He said there was no starvation in Gaza, and then he corrected himself, or he seemed to correct himself, and he said there was no policy of starvation in Gaza. Did you hear that?
It doesn't. It really doesn't ring a bell. But I don't. Do we really care what Netanyahu said? He's
No. So what exactly is happening? I mean, why can't people who are there, infants and whatnot, who have nothing to do with anything of Hamas and what, why cannot they be evacuated along with pregnant women? I mean, why? I don't understand why something as horrific as this. I mean, with people literally dying from starvation, including infants. And I've seen the photos, and I don't want to see any more. Why cannot something be done about that? Why can no one do anything like the UN or somebody? In your opinion, you know a lot more about this whole area than I do, certainly.
I mean, I don't think anybody is telling the truth, and anybody knows what the truth is that's going on in Gaza. There is no credible information that comes out of this conflict from either side or even third parties. The numbers just don't make any sense at all, and the carnage, it is horrific. Of course, you're asking a great question. Why can't they send ships there to have all the kids leave? families leave. They don't want to. You know, they're sticking it out, I guess.
Or they're being forced to stick
not,
it out.
yeah, and that's certainly possible too. Or Hamas is saying, if you leave, we're going to kill you, or anybody left behind, we're going to kill them. Like there's nothing credible about this situation. It's a bizarre, insane thing. That we get information from the Hamas health, the Gazan health ministry, who still seems to be claiming that 60,000 Gazans have been killed. Of them are what, 40,000 of them, 50,000 Hamas fighters who are being killed? They're the ones that are being targeted. 20,000 of them children. Again, horrific. We don't know. I mean, the Washington Post has a list of names of, I think, 1,200 children or something like that. One, which is what, 10% of the total amount. The what's going on there is just a horrific situation that needs to end, but only one side is even talking about ending it. And when the governments of France and England come out and they say we're going to grant Palestinian statehood, they're only making the situation worse. They're not making it better. And they're filling Hamas with resolve to continue this fight and to continue holding the 20 or something hostages that they have there. I mean, I just wish the situation wasn't what it is, but I can't. You can't wish it away. This is a war in a very, very tight space with a great number of families caught in the middle, held there by something, whether it's their own sense of nationalism or the threat of violence against them. I have no idea.
Right.
But the question, I think, was something about, like, is the United States going to change our way of looking at this war? I don't think so. It didn't change from Biden to Trump. I don't think it's the only thing that changed was Trump's, insistence that the Gazans probably want to leave, so we should accommodate them and let them leave, but they're not leaving. And they've been fighting for over 100 years for this land. I don't think that they're just going to walk away so Trump can build a bunch of casinos on their shoreline.
Right.
Whatever it is a 100-year war condensed into 3 years or 2 years, and just gets worse all the time.
Well, Ben had two questions: whether it was a genuine humanitarian pivot on Trump's part, political optics, and how should the U.S. navigate the role between supporting Israel and addressing the Palestinians' humanitarian needs. So what happened to Greta Thunberg? What happened to her? Oh. She went and Israel picked her up and a bunch of other people, and I don't know what happened to her at that point. Is she still incarcerated?
I have no idea. I don't really keep track of her.
No, neither do I. It was just as I was thinking about having people leave.
Well, I mean, and again, I think Scott has an excellent point. And to your question, Brooke, and I'll try to hit that up. I'm a little bit more of the belief, and I do understand Scott's point. They've been fighting over this land for forever. They might not want to leave it, but I also know that what would be the advantage to Hamas if all these people left? Because if all that was left was Hamas left in the Gaza Strip, and let's remember the Gaza Strip, if you were to overlay it over New York City, you'd reach Hoboken, New Jersey, and Manhattan. It's not a very big area.
No, it's tiny.
So it's tiny. So if you were to take all of these innocents out of there, what's stopping Israel just going in and just totally wiping the place out? Nothing. So they need, again, they are very good at having human shields, and they use human shields. And I think there's a lot to do with that. Now, Scott might be perfectly right that there are people that just says, hey, I believe in this place. I want to stay here. Why? I have no idea. But they do. Okay, fine. But I think you're going to find a lot of them would like to leave at this point in time. Now the question comes down is where do they go?
Right.
Palestinians have never been really reliable as refugees. A lot of different countries have found that when they allow Palestinian refugees in, they have trouble. Jordan had, there's just a bunch of different examples where Palestinians have gone in. When we'll take the Iraq War, for instance. It was the Palestinians that basically, for Kuwait, because Kuwait had that basically worked with Saddam Hussein. They worked with Saddam Hussein against the people that took them in. Now, I don't know, but that's called biting the hand that feeds you. I don't really think that a lot of nations are really, open to the idea of taking Palestinians in because of past history. So those are those are the two things that they said. As to the end of the question, how should the U.S. navigate its role for supporting Israel and humanitarian issues? I think we should stay out because there's no right. Here's the deal. There's no right answer. If we support Israel, we're going to be wrong in half the people's minds. If we provide humanitarian aid that hinders that which causes Israel to be hindered, we're going to be wrong in some people's minds. We're going to be seen as supporting Palestine. This is truly a no-win situation where these two entities, is the Israelis and the Palestinians, have got to figure it out or slug it out, one or the other, because no matter who gets involved, and in fact, we got a question here, one of our last ones that's going to come from New York, about the UK saying they're going to recognize Palestine, and we'll be doing that in 2 days from now. Look at all the combination that they've gotten. France has already done it. And France took a beating. There really is no right answer in this conflict, and that's the hardest part about it. There's no right way to go. I mean, sometimes the only choices you have are bad ones, but you still have to choose, unless you don't. And sometimes the best choice is to make no choice. Because no matter who you support, half the world's going to say you're wrong.
Yeah,
and our name's already shit throughout the world. I don't think we need to have our name be shit. If we want to send over boats and stuff with supplies, fine. Let somebody else dole them out, not us.
Yeah, well, even staying out will, the third choice, people won't like that either. We're supposed to do something. We're the United States, and it just shows again how unreliable we are and how this and how that. So whether we try to split it down the middle, try to support one or the other, or did nothing, I think that whatever we did would be wrong.
Yeah, and splitting it down the middle never worked. Run into that situation, I think it's dangerous, and I think we should have learned that. We should have learned it like in Beirut, where we tried to get in the middle, and it never ends up well for us, ever. I think probably Scott disagrees with all that.
I don't, because the one lesson that I think you can draw from this should have been learned a long time ago. It's a lot easier to get into wars than it is to get out of them. And by starting this war, and I don't want to hear from anybody that Hamas is some kind of freedom fighters or anything like that, because they are not. Okay, but by perpetrating that attack on October 7th, they unleashed this thing, and this thing is a horrible thing, and the way out doesn't seem to be evident at all. Surrender is not an optimal solution for anybody here, and is really not an option at all.
No, and I'm the first one to say, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, no, they get no support from this side. of the mic. The Iranians, they get no support from me whatsoever. But when you look at it from the standpoint of, is there a right answer in this for our role? We can't even have the right answer within our own country.
No, we can't.
So I would say we should, if
No.
we're going to, you want to give them food and stuff, absolutely do it. But let somebody else dole it out. Keep us out of it.
Egypt, I don't know, someone else. Well, the other thing that bothers me that I don't hear anyone talking about, and I'm probably people are going to jump all over us or me in the emails that you will get, Mark, is when the Israeli people build on the West Bank illegally and then encroach on what was supposed to be land that was either not built on or was supposed to be land that was for the Palestinians. And no one did anything, correct? And Netanyahu permitted that to happen or encouraged it. And no one stood up for the Palestinian people, and no one globally, I mean, and no one censured, or I don't know if anyone, I shouldn't say no one, but Netanyahu was not stopped.
But here's the thing, Brooke. They pulled out of Gaza unilaterally, and there was no peace deal or anything like that. Mm-hmm. They dragged settlers out of there, kicking and screaming and fighting. Okay, it was an ugly situation that only probably Ariel Sharon, who was the prime minister at the time, could have done because of his stature as a killer of Arabs, but Sharon did that. And the people of Gaza had a chance to build something there, and they chose not to do it.
Maybe they like their land. I mean, they don't have to build on it. I mean, I'm sorry to cut you off. I mean, I don't understand simply because a person chooses not to build on something doesn't mean that they don't value the land.
But here's what they did get. They got billions of dollars of aid that they turned into weapons. All the money that they got for concrete went to those bunkers and tunnels underground, not to building their cities up. And if they got a water filtration plant, instead of being used to provide water for the people, it was broken up into pieces and used to make makeshift missiles and things like that.
That's the problem.
They could have smuggled in X-ray equipment and other medical things, but they didn't do that. They smuggled in missiles and bombs and weapons. This is a choice that they made. When Israel took over the West Bank after the 6-Day War, the idea was to trade it back for peace, but peace was never offered. And so they kept building on it and making it more and more difficult for them to trade it for peace. But everything that's man-made can be dismantled. And everything man-made in the West Bank and in Gaza can be destroyed and turned over to somebody else. But there needs to be a credible peace offer, and there never has been, and we've never been further from it now. We were never closer to it than we were on October 6th, 2023, when Netanyahu was forced to make a peace deal with Saudi Arabia, because to turn it down would have been an unconscionable thing for him to do and a crazy thing for him to do. And so as much as he hated it, he made that deal with them, announced it on September 23rd, 2023 at the UN, and 2 weeks later, Hamas struck, and we've never been further from peace since then. And that is the truth. We are back to Saudi Arabia and other countries saying, we want to intercede here and create some kind of stability and safety for the Israeli people. The Israeli people are not at this time buying it. And probably reasonably so, that they're not trusting these Arab countries to provide the safety and security that they believe they can provide for themselves, even at the horrific cost to their future, frankly, and of course the Palestinian people.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying because I did not know that.
Like I say, probably another thing is both, and as I mentioned, my brother-in-law and my niece both live on the West Bank.
Right. No,
So
I know
they're
that.
they're settlers. Anyway, all right. Well, hopefully we answered that one.
Yeah, thank you, Ben, for the question. It certainly stimulated a very interesting dialogue, and I learned quite a bit. Thank you, Scott. I'm not very familiar with the area at all. That's not my area of expertise, so I'm happy to learn along with everybody else. And our listeners probably know more than I do about it, so thank you, Scott. And thank you, everyone, for spending some of your time today with us. If you are not already subscribed to the Nova Society on whatever your preferred platform is, please do subscribe. Subscribing is free and we really appreciate it. So for the three of us here at the Nova Society, Mark, Scott, and me, thank you for listening, and we will see you again next time.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening!